This video is brought to you by Squarespace. It's been about a year since the original Mavic Mini came out, and to be honest with you, I barely used it. You were limited to 2.7K up to 30p, and at the time there was no manual control either, although that came with a firmware update. Plus, only having a Wi-Fi connection to the controller. Extended Wi-Fi, but still not great. It made no sense when I had much better drones, even though the small size was really appealing to me. So now we have the successor to it, but it's not the Mavic Mini, it is now just the Mini 2. And it certainly has improved the key things for me that were missing on the original one. So now it does 4K up to 30p. Yes, it does 24 and 25p. It does have full manual control over that. And we have OcuSync 2, which means we have a much bigger range, but it's not really about the range because I never really have the drone far away from me. It's about having a really lovely, solid image. We have the same controller as the Mavic Air 2. It is big. It is bigger than the actual drone and heavier, but it's much better. We have a big battery inside it, which will last for ages and charge your phone. And the antenna is in the holder of the phone. You keep the phone in its case, and it sits above the controller, which is a much more natural place for it to be, much easier to glance down at very quickly. It's a much better controller. The range is now up to 10 kilometers. It does need to be like absolutely nothing in the way for that. And one of the biggest selling points for it, being under 250 grams, yeah, of course it still is. That magic number in so many countries means you don't need to get it licensed. Although you do still need to follow the laws of your country with it. Doesn't matter how small it is.
With a drone this light, you're going to have compromises. And one of the biggest ones is there's no sensors on it apart from the downward ones. There's no obstacle avoidance, no left to right, above. So you just got to be careful, which, you know, is a little bit ironic considering it's a beginner drone where that sort of thing would be really nice. And you can see the dynamic range is challenging a bit when I'm in that sun. So let me walk towards the sun.
One of my biggest issues with the Mavic Mini was the strength of the motors. It really struggled when it got windy, and there's loads of reports of people simply not being able to get it back when it got caught up with wind. Now with the more powerful motors, it has a higher top speed of 16 meters a second, up from 13 meters a second. That's in the sport mode, and I do very rarely use sport mode. Mostly I keep it very slow. Not as slow as I'd like to on this drone because there is no tripod mode. What it has is a cinematic mode, same as the original one, which basically smooths out your movements on the joystick, so when it slows down it doesn't just stop, that sort of thing. It does slow the drone down, but nothing like tripod mode.
I've got some ability to do some fine control. The way to get the shots, you know, just skirting over things and going through things, is simply just to be in the line of sight with it. That's the key. And the more interesting shots are by far going backwards because it's reveal, but of course if there's no subject, no people, no vehicles, nothing in frame, you can just reverse the shot. Noise-wise, it seems not too bad at all. I do need to get out the original Mavic Mini and have a little comparison, but considering I am just a metre away from it, that's pretty good. The lav mic is omnidirectional, so it's picking up all around. If I do turn my back to it, then obviously it's going to be a lot quieter. So 50 centimeters away from me, I totally trust it, I think. And this is going to steal Gerald Undun's idea of doing a little sponsor message for Squarespace whilst here as an audio test. I've been using Squarespace for 5 years, ever since I broke up my blog and worksite, separated them. And I chose Squarespace because I know you've heard it before. Just bear with me, okay? Just come back. Really easy to maintain, really easy to design, great templates. Because I don't know anything about coding, I can make changes myself without having to have a webmaster. And I absolutely love it. It's so easy to use. And I really, see, now I'm losing my train of thought. All right, I'm gonna carry on doing that message while you go off and do something interesting, because at least the audio is on me. Go on, off you go. Bit rude, isn't it? Oh, bye. Now you have to come back now, the battery's dead. Anyway, you can get your own website domain by clicking the link in the description below.
I don't normally do this, but I did a slightly more technical test of the audio, comparing the original Mini to the Mini 2. As the Mini 2 has more powerful motors to withstand wind and go faster, not surprising, it is a little bit louder. It's only a little bit louder. It's still bearable. The sensor is exactly the same. It's a 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor. The image itself is actually pretty nice. It's certainly better than the original Mavic Pro, and a big part of that is it does have a high bit rate. It's 100 megabits a second, and that is in H.264. It isn't H.265 like you see in the Mavic Air 2 and above. It's not super high, but it's okay. You just do need a high bit rate when you're filming with drones, because most of the time it's moving, and most of the time there's lots of fine detail. And this location where I'm filming now, I always testing the drones out because it is such a challenge with all of the leaves and everything. I think the image has improved with the Mavic Air 2 with firmware. I can't be sure, but it looks like it from the last time I filmed with it, because I was getting much better results than I got when I filmed my review of it. As with all of the Mavic series of drones, the image is overly sharpened, and actually is the same with the action camera and the Pocket and Pocket 2. The Mavic 2 Pro, for example, does give you the ability to bring down your sharpness. You can bring it down a little bit in post, but it's not great. Having an overly sharpened image means if you do want to crop in on it, it's not going to look very good. By the time you watch it on YouTube, it won't look anywhere near as bad as what you're seeing on the computer. But I would love to see the ability to bring that sharpness down a bit, have a little bit more control. Another improvement is you can now shoot in RAW for photos. The original Mavic Mini had no panorama modes, so if you wanted to do any panorama photographs, you had to do it manually yourself. Now we have the sphere mode, the 180 degree panorama, and the wide mode. I'm down to my last battery, which isn't ideal. I mean, you can... Oh, I've lost them. I think they've fallen out. Yeah, they've fallen out. Oh, you... They've really fallen out, haven't they? Oh, no, I didn't go that way. Did I? Oh, no, I have no idea. Pro tip for you, if you've got your bag to the side like this, or if you've got your bag side at all, always make sure it's closed. So my battery charger with the spare battery, the last battery, fell out.
So, very lucky. Oh my God, what an idiot. Okay, well at least I've got it. So, let that be a lesson to your kids. Listen to the old man. Close your bag. Fall out. One of the pluses of having a charger that is USB powered is you can charge on the go. I've got a power delivery device. It's not the strongest one. It'll give me something. We shall see how much I can get out of it. We do have the same quick shots in video that we had in the Mini. We also got an additional mode. Just make sure you do what I didn't do, which is go to the main settings, select camera, and then select 4K when you're in the quick shot mode. Otherwise you'll get HD, like me. So we have the Droney, Rocket, the Helix, and Boomerang. I forgot to do circle, but here's one I did earlier using the Mavic Air 2. Bit of a different location, and this one just circles round because it's called Circle. Just remember, with the Mini 2 you've got no obstacle avoidance sensors, so unless you are out in the middle of the sea like this, please be very, very, very careful of the surroundings. So the light sufficiently dropped to get a bit of low light flying, although this is not a low light drone. I got a bit more juice because I've charged it up, so make the most of it. Once the light goes, there's not much you can do with the Mini 2. When it's dusk like this, it's fine as long as you're happy to have things very silhouetted. If you try and expose for those dark areas, it's going to look terrible because you're having to push up that ISO. You really need to keep it as low as possible whenever you're filming. And yes, that means in bright light too. Keep it to 100 as much as you possibly can. I have to admit I wasn't expecting much from the Mini 2, but the increased resolution combined with the OcuSync 2, so you got nice solid reception, makes it a much better drone than the original one. And it is something I can imagine taking out with me much more than other drones because it is so small. But I don't think this is a beginner drone because it doesn't have those sensors, which I've mentioned numerous times. If you are new to drones, then the Mavic Air 2 is literally a safer bet, but it is pretty much twice the price. So if you are looking to get the Mini 2 and you are new to drones, then sure, but please be incredibly careful, incredibly cautious, build up your confidence, never get cocky, and it's probably worth taking out the DJI Care refresh. I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one.